In a few minutes, I'll hand over to Ryan McAllister and Aaron Ingham for an introduction to supply chain integrity in Australia and CSIRO's ambition in that area. Then that will be followed by a talk by Phil Valencia on automated provenance and what that looks like in a farm setting. At 10:10, Mark Headley will facilitate a panel session where we'll be joined by 2 CSIRO and 2 industry representatives to get their views on what the big research challenges are, particularly for the red meat industry. At 10:45, we'll have that 10-minute break. I'll encourage you to stretch your legs, grab a cuppa, and then at 10:55, we'll split into 2 sessions. So your agenda has a web link 1 and a web link 2. If you're interested in staying in these talks, just stay in this meeting. If you're interested on the right-hand side, you just need to leave web link 1 and join web link 2 through your agenda. I'll just show you quickly. It's very easy to leave. Just click the red X at the bottom of the screen. And as I said, back to your agenda, and you can hop across these talks in whichever order you please. So, you know, stay in one for a few talks, jump into another, come back again. Please feel free to join the talks that are of interest to you. And we will do our best to keep to time, and that means you may find that we cut you off during the Q&A sessions. I'll apologise for that in advance, but we do want to keep to time so that you have confidence in being able to switch from one talk to another. And we will keep track of questions that are posted on chat, and I am happy to email out responses to those questions after the event. Okay, so let's begin. I'll chat to you again after the panel session, so just before the short break. But now I'd like to introduce you to Ryan McAllister to kick off the first session. Over to you, Ryan. You're still on mute, Ryan. There you go.
Really? And can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
That's strange because now it's saying I'm on mute. Well, I'll proceed nevertheless. So I said hello. That's what you missed. Thanks for having me. Look, I want to start by quoting CSIRO's mission statement, which ironically perhaps I have to read. So our mission statement is to solve Australia's greatest challenges with innovative science and technology. And really today you'll hear about some really fantastic technology developed over the last 12 months around supply chains in meat. Before we progress to that, what I want to do is try and contextualise the science with the other part of the mission statement, which is about why this really is one of Australia's great challenges, and in this case actually a great opportunity. So I'll start with the obvious. Agriculture is one of Australia's most significant industries. When you count agribusiness, it actually employs about 500 million people. Farmers manage about half the Australian landscape. It's probably worth pointing out that Indigenous communities in their own right manage vast swathes of the landscape as well, but they also have community development aspirations that are really quite deeply intertwined with the agricultural aspirations. And at about $40 billion a year, agriculture is actually one of our top export earners. So it's a really important space. So very important, nevertheless, as championed by the National Farmers Federation, the industry has got great aspirations to grow. So NFF have headlined with the $100 billion farm gate target, and really importantly, governments at all levels have got their own strategies and are asking themselves what they can do to support this target. And FIAL just released the Capturing the Prize report, which talks about how we capture not just farm gate profits, but also agri-industry and supply chain benefits across the chain. So what you find with all of these strategies is that they all talk about growing agriculture, and they all talk about it by growing agriculture through value. So not by production, but through value. It's really, really important. So to capture value, you need a valuable product. That's kind of obvious. But you also need to do everything that you can do to build trust in the product that you're trying to sell. And as an analogy, if you have a wooden chair that you're trying to sell, and it's a 12th century antique from France and not from IKEA, if you can't convince people that it's actually, an antique, the price that you will get is the IKEA price. So in economics, they call this the theory of lemons. So it's all about assurances. When we think about assurances, you'll hear a lot about consumer trust, and consumer trust is no doubt really, really important. But I think in terms of commercial return on investment in agricultural supply, a lot of the assurances that we need to focus on also include, or maybe even focus on, retailers and the regulators. And I know Ian Jensen is on the panel today from MLA, and I know that he can talk to this topic with some authority. So the other point about return on investment is that when we think about growth and economics, we can't come close to meeting any of the targets if we don't have a significant focus on what we export. Solutions that we develop for supply chains in the international markets and market access and so forth, they've all got applicability to the domestic market, but as a nation, we actually export 70% of what we produce. So it's just absolutely fundamental that any economical growth strategy has an export focus. Now, at CSIRO, we're constantly reviewing and evolving our strategy. And given the points that I've made already, it shouldn't be surprising to you guys that Australian agri-food exports has really emerged as one of the core pillars of what we want to achieve. So under the banner of Trusted Agri-Food Exports, and this is the initiative that I lead, we really will be ramping up our work to build trust in food quality and safety, and to help gain access to a much more diverse range of high-value markets. And I should acknowledge there's actually many people on the call this morning who have played a role both inside the organisation and outside, already played a role in shaping up what we want to do. And in fact, Department of Agriculture and MLA are foundational partners in scoping that work. Now, COVID has sharpened the lens on the value proposition of what we want to do, but really food security hasn't been a major issue within Australia. What's actually happened is that the export and import supply chains have been disrupted, demand patterns have changed, and I'm sure everyone will know that geopolitically it's a really complicated phase for Australia. So all of this doesn't change the value proposition. What it does is just re-emphasise the pre-existing need for market diversification and ability to validate and trade on our clean reputation, and also an ability to drive a new highly skilled workforce in the food sector. So science and technology that you will hear today has played a really big part in helping shape Trusted Agri-Food Exports Initiative. In return, the Trusted Agri-Food Exports Initiative needs to give the science and technology a legacy going forward. So to give this legacy, we need to do a few things, and fundamentally there's three. We need to build partnerships. We need to sharpen the application of our tech, specifically around the market need, and we need to build scale. As you hear the talks today, I think you'll agree they're all really exciting bits of science. While hearing these talks, I want you to think about three questions. So one is, where can we use and deploy this work or even repurpose it? The other one is, what's the pathway to impact? And finally, more broadly, how do we join forces to shape a legacy and unlock what should be the next wave of agricultural productivity? So that's it from me. Have a great day. Thanks again, and I'll pass over to Aaron.
Thanks, Ryan. I hope everyone can hear me okay. So good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Supply Chain Integrity Showcase. My name is Aaron, and I'm a research scientist within CSIRO's Agriculture and Food Business Unit, and I'm based up here in Brisbane. So going back 12 months, we, and that we is a royal we, a collection of agricultural and Data 61 scientists, were given the challenge of researching the use of digital technologies to assist in monitoring, reporting, and regulatory compliance within the red meat supply chain. Our thinking here was that the red meat supply chain is widely regarded as one of the most complex in the food supply system. So if we could solve these issues for red meat, then everything else in the agricultural supply chain would be easy. That's the hope. Now, when we think of regulation, we generally do so through gritted teeth. It is rarely a fun process. It takes time, money, is often tedious, and generally it's hard to find the required information. But on the flip side, regulation ensures the food we eat is safe and nutritious, that if it's labelled beef, it is actually beef. If it's labelled Australian, it was actually produced in Australia, and that the animals involved have been well treated. Basically, to pick up on Ryan's earlier example, that what we are selling is not a lemon. Although regulation can be onerous, It also provides an opportunity for producers to communicate with consumers. This isn't how we traditionally think about regulation, but perhaps it is an opportunity that is being lost. We know the industry works hard to address complex issues around animal welfare and environmental stewardship, but somewhere in a fragmented supply chain, this message is being lost. Unnecessary antagonism and negative perceptions of the industry grow in the absence of positive messaging. Welfare and environmental metrics can also be very difficult to measure, and at best, in their current form, they represent a point in time rather than the animal's whole life experience. So fast forward 12 months, and where are we now? We have advanced research that addresses how to continuously measure animal welfare and make this easy to report. We've developed systems that assure product provenance and integrity. We've developed systems that translate guidelines into an objective set of rules that can be assessed by sensors. And this is no easy feat because often these rules or guidelines can be quite vague in the way that they're stated. So there's a whole process that needs to be gone through to actually make that happen. We've developed novel approaches to ensure that information you collect is trustworthy. We've developed systems that translate these guidelines into an objective set of rules that can be assessed by sensors. And ultimately, a system that connects all these different sources of information in a form that is then able to auto-populate your regulatory documents when needed. It has been an interesting and challenging exercise to investigate these areas, but the following talks will reveal the progress that has been made. Basically, it is time for the researchers to show their findings to industry, to get feedback, and then refine the products so that they are most useful. Ultimately, the plan is that in partnership with industry, we will deliver tools that will deliver objective, continuous, and trustworthy information. Tools that will help the industry communicate their good news stories widely and ensure that regulatory compliance is that little bit easier. So it's now time to move on from the aspirations and overview into the research detail. And so to take you through that part of the journey, I'll pass you over to my colleague, Phil Valencia.